And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Del Vecchio here, specializing in home care, elder care planning, and the senior living industry. A little Kansas for us. You know, dealing with the loss of a loved one is difficult to begin with, and one of the many tasks at hand is estate settlement. A key player in the process is the executor, and who has the responsibility of executing the deceased wishes, managing assets, and ensuring the smooth transition of estates. Joining us today is Jerry Grossman, the founder and president of Executor Estate Settlement Services at Service Comptable. Jerry Grossman. Jerry, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you, Matt. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for coming into studio here. It's been a while. We've wanted you here, and it's such an important topic. Can be a little confusing, a little overwhelming, so I'm glad you're here sort of to review everything with us. So what are the key responsibilities of an executor during the estate settlement process?
So, as an executor, you're responsible for settling an estate according to the deceased wishes. And that means that you have to follow what the person has put in their will. You can't do whatever you want. If there's no will, then there's other rules as well. Some of the tasks involved in what you have to do as an executor is you have to get copies of the death certificate. You have to obtain and review the will and the codicils, get the will searches from the Chambre des Notaires and the Barreau de Québec. If the will was done by a lawyer, not by a notary, it's going to have to be probated by the court. You have to go, and I've done this in the past, advise the post office to forward mail of the deceased to the address of the liquidator. Liquidator, by the way, is a term used in Quebec. The rest of Canada uses the term executor. And you've a whole slew of other tasks, canceling credit cards, if there's automatic payments on these cards, make arrangements for payment, canceling the old age security, canceling Quebec pension benefits, applying for the death benefits, survivors benefits. If there's a safety deposit box, review the contents. I've been involved in cases where I have a file where a client passed away. They had a safety deposit box in the Royal Bank downtown, lost the key, and we had to get a locksmith, and tons of jewelry we found there. Another safety deposit box in the States, and in the States there's more complications because you've got special rules and it's not as simple as it is in Canada. Other things, if there's private companies, there's other tasks involved. So there's many tasks.
It's just listening to Jerry. It just
goes on and on.
Boy, so if someone's going to ask you to be a liquidator, well, you might want to think yes or no beforehand. Just listening to you getting a little dizzy. However, I would imagine there are some proactive initiatives that can be done in advance regarding estate settlement to save a lot of these headaches. Correct?
Absolutely. I've always used this term: happy wife, happy life. You want to make things easier for your loved ones in the event of death. You want to make sure your loved ones are taken care of. And one of the things that I often recommend to people, and I've done this myself, is you should make an inventory of your assets and important documents. It's going to make it easier. You know where everything is. You know what you have. But if you're not here, nobody's going to know where they are. And some of the things that you should have on that inventory is your personal information, including your social insurance number, financial details, accounts, investments, credit cards, life insurance, income tax returns, all kinds of things of this nature, your will, your funeral arrangements, everything. So these are things that you can do in advance. Another thing that's very important is to make sure that you have a will. There's probably about, I would say, maybe 50% of the people in the country that don't have a will. And that's really sad. You know, we're all busy. We tend to procrastinate. Many of us, we don't want to think about it. And I've come across various situations where people didn't have a will. A few examples that I can think of at the top of my head is I had a situation where a businessman died. He had a very profitable company, many corporate assets, personal assets, large family and children, no will. Two sisters owning a portfolio of real estate, no will. Parents that are separated, owning real estate and other assets. Elderly lady with no family members, substantial, again, no will. So these are things, it's very important.
Just amazing about that. You know, we've had notaries on the show here on Life Unrehearsed, and that number is right. It's about 50%. It's kind of mind-boggling. Listening to Life Unrehearsed, Matt Del Vecchio here, and I'm talking about estate settlement with Jerry Grossman. Jerry, what are some of the common mistakes that liquidators should avoid during estate settlement?
So I would say, like, I always ask the question, like the questions that executors should ask when they find that they've been appointed as a liquidator. And if you're not doing it, these are the mistakes. But the questions you should be asking is, where's the will kept? Does the will need to be probated? What's the value of the estate? What are the value of the individual assets? Are there credit cards that are outstanding? Does the mailing address have to be updated? If somebody is appointed as a liquidator, you have do they have the time, the patience, the expertise to act in that field? I have one of the files I have is where a brother and sister called me up and they said, "Can you help us?" And I said, "Well, I can help you, but who's the liquidator?" And he said, "He is." And I said, "Sometimes if you just don't have the time," he says, he's running a big company, and he says, "I'll come to any meeting you want. I'll sign anything that you need. Just you take care of everything." So that's what I've been doing in that particular file. You have to make sure that if there's professional assistance that's needed, that it's taken care of.
It's so important, and like you say, we're running our lives, right? And all of a sudden you're in that liquidator
Yeah.
role, and it could be overwhelming. In terms of timeline, if it's even a
Yeah.
fair question, can you explain the timeline for estate settlement in that process and the factors that might affect that timeline?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So I think as a beneficiary, people are hoping that it could get wrapped up in a few weeks or a couple of months. It doesn't happen like that. One of the things that I've learned when I started doing this business is that it can take up to a year, even longer. Like, you have to file a final tax return from January 1st until the day that the person passed away. You have to file estate returns. So every file culminates in doing a tax return, an estate return, a final return. But sometimes it could take longer because you could have a situation where the liquidator doesn't know what he's doing. You could have a situation where there are assets in the United States and or other foreign countries, and there's special rules over there. I have a file where we had to bring in a lawyer in Florida because the person had a condo in Florida, had bank accounts in the States, had a safety deposit box. I have another file where somebody owns land in Jamaica.
And I could see how that's adding to the timeline. So it's just not
Everything
cut and
adds
dry.
to the timeline.
All right. Now, Jerry, we're running out of time. However, it's very interesting. Good on you. We share similar paths. I was in the corporate world and started my own little family business about 8 years ago. You kind of did the same thing. And a lot of it is due to the demand as our population ages. And you said, you know what, this is also very gratifying too, because you are helping families. So can you quickly describe some of the services that you offer?
Yeah. So you're right. This is very, very gratifying to me. It's I've been in the accounting world for over 30 years, and I've been doing this now for a little over a year and a half. And I must say, this year and a half has been the most satisfying in my professional career. I saw a need for this service. I wanted to help. People can be totally overwhelmed by the duties involved. They're not sure how to proceed. They lack expertise, and every situation, every file is unique. Being an accountant, as I am, has proven to be very, very helpful. I see and I understand things that the average liquidator may not comprehend. And I've been able to save my clients substantial tax dollars in many situations. And my clients have been extremely grateful for the assistance. So a lot of cases, I'm helping people with what they have to do. A confrere of mine mentioned, like I said to him, a lot of what I'm doing is not rocket science. And he said to me, "You're right, it's not rocket science, but if you're not doing it, it's not getting done."
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I think at the end of it all, you're saving people's time. Obviously, usually in an emotional time, an overwhelming time, and you're probably saving them some money, so good on you. And what I'd like to do, we're already out of time. We have to head out to traffic here, Jerry, but how can our listeners get a hold of you?
They can either call me on my cell phone, 514-502-6769. They can email me at jerry@jgrossman.ca, and they can go to my website, which is jgrossman.ca.
All right, jgrossman.ca, and certainly worth a phone call to inquire, and you will. It is complicated, and you're making lives a little easier for people, and good on you, and wish you continued success, Jerry.
Thank you very much. A pleasure being here.
Yeah. All right, that's Jerry Grossman, the founder and president for Executor Estate Settlement Services at Service Comptable, Jerry Grossman.